Hi everyone, and welcome to another video analysis session with me, Coach Micah. Today we're going to look at Karen's forehand. I would say Karen is between a 2.5 and a 3.0, but has some really good fundamentals. I do want to let this run for a couple of seconds, and then I will actually put myself here as a comparison. We're starting with the grip because we're always starting from the beginning. Karen has what I'm seeing as an Eastern grip. It tends to potentially be almost over a little too far towards the continental grip. So if you want to come over ever so slightly, a little bit more to the right, if you hold the racket in front of you like this, and you have your racket, your hand on the racket, you can slide over ever so slightly to your right a little bit more, and then you have a true Eastern forehand grip, which is actually the grip that I'm using when I'm coaching. So that is a really good thing. Let's look at some of the other fundamentals that I do like. So I do like that you have your left arm up and out. So it's not just hanging by your side. We could make this unit turn a little deeper. If you see that here, when I'm bringing my left arm around, this is my non-hitting hand, it is parallel to the baseline. And that just helps with bringing my hip and my shoulder back. And that is one thing that I think you could deepen a little bit. Just bring that arm around a little bit more. Right, so because yours is perpendicular to the baseline, so ideally we would see your shoulder turn a little bit more and the hips come back a little bit more. I do like that your racket head is above the wrist. That's exactly what we want. And you're having a nice loop here. This is really good. I like that. Good loop, and you're brushing up to the ball. So here's one thing that I'm seeing in the variation of some of the balls. So we have one contact point here, which is about hip high. That's one that I really do like. So let's just mark that here, and let's see what some of the other contact points are. So that is a little higher there, and it's almost above shoulder. And I think then we have one more. That is much better. That's about chest high. So about here. If I'm going all the way back, I think there was one more that was a little higher. So that was probably about here. So the issue with that is, if you have a variation of contact points, you have to change your swing to get to that contact point. Ideally, we want to keep the swing fairly the same and adjust with our legs to the ball. So on a shorter ball, you would move up a little bit and still catch that ball between your hip and your shoulder. On higher and deeper balls, you move back a little bit to let that ball drop back into your strike zone, again between hip and shoulder. So that's what I'm trying to do here when I'm making contact, catching it about here, just above my hips. And on the next one, see here, I'm hitting the ball actually a little further back in the court, again to get it about hip high. So that is an adjustment that you don't want to make with changing your swing. And you see that here, to reach up to that higher ball, and then the follow through is a little compromised because you're actually having to swing up and then you're bringing your racket steep down. You want to make sure that you adjust with your footwork. So even when you're playing with the ball machine, which I know you are there is a variation in the feed. So it's more your footwork that allows you to replicate the same swing. And that is, I think, one of the biggest issues when you're a little newer to tennis. So a couple of other things that I want to point out. So what I really like here is on the next ball, I think that's where you're catching them. That is a better contact point. So I want to say you're catching it about, so you caught it about here, and you also caught it further in front. So I can't really find that contact point here because I don't have enough frames on the video. But you see that here, you have your racket out in front of your body, and that's exactly where you need it to be. On some of the other ones, you're just being a little late on the ball, and that is, again, something that does not help with consistency, of course. So ideally, you want to have your contact point in front of your center of gravity. So if I can find that here in my video, right here. So you see that I have it, yep, above my hip, below my shoulder, and I'm making contact about here, which is in front of my center of gravity, and it's in front of my front foot. So again, that's a little bit more of a footwork issue because your swing fundamentally is sound. As I said, you have a nice take back, but your follow through a lot of times varies because you're just making contact at different heights and different planes, a little bit too far back behind you. So on this one, for instance, right, you catch it above your shoulder and then you bring your swing down. We have one where you're making contact better here, and I like that follow through better. However, I would like a little bit more extension forward on that swing, because see how quickly you come around and you're closing over your left shoulder a little bit too much. So ideally you would have your finish over your shoulder or biceps, which is perfectly fine, but you would have your elbow a little further away and a little higher. So let's see in comparison where I have mine. So on this one, I'm really exaggerating that, but you see how high I'm following through, and I have that rhino nose. That's what we use, or I use that terminology when I teach kids, but it's applicable obviously for adults as well. See, I have that rhino nose higher and above my shoulder and in front of my face almost. So a couple of tweaks. Let's look at it from the back. Let's look at your forehand here. So as I said before, and you see that here a little bit more, your left arm never really comes all the way around. And that will come with more experience, of course. And of course, if you focus on it a little bit more. So if we're seeing that here, I'm bringing my shoulder back. So let's look at that here. My left arm is clearly helping me turn my upper body, right? So to get a deeper unit turn. Unit turn just refers to my turn of the shoulder, the turn of my hip, and also taking my racket back. So as a unit, I'm bringing the entire upper body back. And I think you could tweak that a little bit more and focus on that a little bit more. I do like that you have a loop. But what I would like to see, and I think we see that here a little bit more, or a lot better, you come in a very circular motion very quickly. So I would like some more extension through the ball, and then you bring your arm and your elbow and wrist around so that you're just getting a little bit more topspin. And one other thing that your left hand can help with is to actually catch that racket here over your left shoulder. So look at your left arm. It's really pulling the entire body around, and it doesn't want to necessarily do it as much. So see here, I'm absolutely exaggerating that because for the reasons that I'm doing this as a comparison, but I'm really finishing high and away from my shoulder, and I'm using my left hand to catch that racket a little bit further in front of my body to actually prevent me from twisting around too much and helping me extend through the shot a little bit more. So let's look at one other, because I think we're seeing the variation in contact point. So here, to my mind, you're a little bit too far away, and you're very much getting that ball exactly to the side of your body. Again, you want that contact point a little bit more in front. See here, that is... Let me see if I can find my contact point here a little bit better. There we go. So I have that in front here, in front of my body there. So you don't want to have it to the side too far. Again, that's more a footwork issue rather than really the swing, because if you're not really in the proper position, your body can't, swing in the proper way. So that is a little bit better in terms of hitting it in front. And again, I want a longer extension here. And you've seen that here, what happens with the result of that ball, right? You hit that on the head of the racket because you're too far away. And then you have to twist into the ball to even reach it. So a little closer to the ball and then making contact further in front, which will prevent you feeling from jammed. You don't want to have a chicken wing, of course, as you're hitting the ball, but extending forward and catching that ball further in front will really help that. And then let's look at one more follow through here. Catch that racket in front. And just have that left arm out here a little bit more, because one thing that the role of the left arm is to help you balance. And that is what you, I think, could improve on a little bit more. So let's look at where I would follow through. Again, totally exaggerated. And it's perfectly fine to finish different ways. So you see here, one of the follow throughs was really high over my left shoulder. Totally exaggerated, but it's perfectly fine to also follow through around your biceps as long as you have that extension and you then have that elbow a little higher and almost like about your face height, and have that elbow pointing over to the ball machine here.